The freak show, a prominent part of circuses in the 19th and early 20th centuries, was an attraction where people with rare physical traits or unusual abilities were put on display. While some of these individuals were born with rare conditions, others were made famous for their extraordinary talents. But behind the acts, there were fascinating stories of resilience, exploitation, and sometimes even empowerment. In today's video, we'll take a deep dive into the lives of some of the most famous circus performers who truly existed. Cuckoo, the bird girl whose real name was Minnie Woolsey, born 1880 in Georgia, USA, was born with a rare genetic condition called Seckel syndrome, often referred to as bird-headed dwarfism. This condition caused her to have a small head, a beaked nose, a thin face, and mild intellectual disabilities. She was also nearly blind and had little to no hair. She was discovered and brought into the sideshow world, where she was given the stage name Cuckoo, the bird girl. Her act often involved her wearing a feathery, bird-like costume while dancing and making exaggerated movements. She became a well-known attraction in circus sideshows, particularly under Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, gaining further recognition when she appeared in the 1932 cult classic Freaks, directed by Todd Browning. Not much is known. Her life after her career in the sideshow circuit, some sources suggest that she continued performing into the 1960s, but the exact details of her later years and death remain unclear. Johnny Eck, the half-boy born 1911 in Baltimore, Maryland, was born with a rare condition called sacral agenesis, which resulted in him having no lower body. Despite this, he was an incredibly active and talented individual who refused to let his condition define him. He excelled in gymnastics, painting, and even magic tricks. Johnny was discovered by a sideshow promoter as a teenager, and soon began performing in Ripley's Believe It or Not, Ringling Brothers, and Barnum and Bailey Circus, and gained further fame after starring in Todd Browning's 1932 horror cult classic Freaks, where he played himself. After retiring from the sideshow circuit, Johnny Eck pursued his passions, including painting, wood carving, and even running a movie theater in his hometown. He lived a relatively quiet life with his twin brother Robert and remained beloved in his Baltimore community. Johnny passed away at the age of 79 on January 5, 1991. Pip and Flip, born Jenny Lee Snow, 1910, and Elvira Snow, 1914, in Georgia, were born with microcephaly, a condition characterized by an abnormally small head and intellectual disabilities. Due to their condition, they were often referred to as pinhead, a term commonly used in sideshows for performers with microcephaly. The sisters became famous as Pip and Flip while performing in sideshow attractions under the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Like many other sideshow performers, Pip and Flip gained further recognition when they appeared in Todd Browning's 1932 cult classic Freaks. Alongside other famous circus acts, their childlike nature and distinct appearance made them memorable characters in the film. Jenny Lee Snow passed away at a young age in 1934, while her sister Elvira Snow continued to perform in sideshows until her death in 1976. Their story remains a part of circus history, illustrating both the fascination and exploitation of individuals with unique conditions during the heyday of freak shows. Daisy and Violet Hilton, born 1908 in Brighton, England, were pygopagous conjoined twins, meaning they were joined at the lower back and shared blood circulation, but had separate vital organs. They were born to an unmarried barmaid in England, were quickly sold to Mary Hilton, who saw financial potential in them. Mary Hilton raised the twins under strict control, training them to perform from a young age. They were forced into a life of public exhibition, performing in sideshows across Europe and the United States. Under the management of Mary Hilton and later her successors, the twins became famous in the circus, vaudeville, and burlesque circuits. They were skilled musicians, playing the piano and saxophone, and became one of the most famous acts in Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus and vaudeville theaters in the 1920s. By the late 1950s, vaudeville and sideshow acts were declining, and the Hilton sisters struggled financially. They eventually took low-paying jobs, including working as grocery store clerks in Charlotte. Daisy and Violet Hilton passed away from the flu pandemic in January 1969, dying within days of each other. They were discovered in their home, with Daisy dying first and Violet succumbing shortly after due to their shared bloodstream. Martin Lorello, born 1886 in Nuremberg, Germany, was a sideshow performer, best known for his ability to turn his head 180 degrees, earning him the nickname the Human Owl. This extreme flexibility was likely due to a combination of years of training and a unique spinal structure. Despite his fame, Lorello was reportedly not well liked among his peers. He was known for being arrogant and had a reputation for mistreating his colleagues, especially his fellow sideshow performers. Details about Martin Lorello's later life and death remain unclear. Some reports suggest he continued performing into the 1950s before fading from public view. His exact date and place of death are unknown. Grace McDaniels, born 1888 in Iowa, was born with Sturge-Weber syndrome, a rare congenital condition that caused severe facial deformities, including a large birthmark and excessive tissue growth. Because of her appearance, she was often ridiculed, but she was described as a kind and gentle woman by those who knew her. Grace initially lived a quiet life, but in the 1930s, she joined the Harry Lewiston Traveling Circus as a sideshow performer. Her unusual facial features led to her being marketed as the mule-faced woman. Despite her condition, Grace was one of the highest-paid sideshow attractions of her time. She won a World's Ugliest Woman contest in 1935, which helped boost her fame and solidify her career in the circus world. Grace McDaniels performed in sideshows until her health declined. She spent her later years in Gibsonton, Florida, a famous retirement community for circus and sideshow performers. She passed away on March 17, 1958, at the age of 70. Krau Farine was born in 1876 in Laos with hypertrichosis, a condition that caused excessive hair growth all over her body. Her appearance, which included a hairy face, elongated features, and flexible joints, led to false claims that she was the missing link between apes and humans, a marketing gimmick used by sideshows to attract crowds. Krau became a well-known sideshow attraction in both Europe and the United States. Krau Farini continued performing in sideshows well into adulthood. She eventually settled in Brooklyn, New York, where she lived a quiet life off-stage. She passed away on April 16, 1926, at the age of 50, from influenza. Pauline Musters was born in 1876 in the Netherlands, with proportional dwarfism, and is considered the shortest woman ever recorded, standing at only 24 inches tall as an adult and weighing around 5 pounds, recognizing her potential as a performer. Pauline's family introduced her to the world of circuses and sideshows at a young age. She toured extensively throughout Europe and the United States, where she was marketed as the smallest woman in the world. While performing in New York City in early 1895, Pauline contracted pneumonia and meningitis. She passed away on March 1, 1895, just days after her 19th birthday. Charlotte Vogel, born 1908 in Germany, was better known by her stage name, Susie, born with a rare skin condition believed to be ichthyosis. These conditions caused her skin to become thick, rough, and deeply wrinkled, resembling the texture of elephant skin, hence her sideshow nickname, the Elephant Skin Girl. Susie gained popularity as a sideshow attraction in European circuses during the early to mid-20th century. She toured with several well-known traveling freak shows, where she was exhibited as a medical curiosity. Unlike many other sideshow performers, there are few records of her being exhibited in the United States, making her more of a European attraction. There is very little documentation about Susie's later life and death. She likely retired from performing at some point in the 20th century. Some sources suggest she lived into old age, but the exact date and circumstances of her death remain unknown. Fedor Adrianovich was born in Russia in 1868 with a rare condition called hypertrichosis, which caused excessive hair growth all over his face and body. His father also had the same condition and was exhibited as a sideshow attraction before Fedor as a child. Fedor was discovered by a circus showman and began performing in traveling freak shows across Russia and Europe with his father. In the 1880s, Fedor was brought to America by P.T. Barnum, where he was marketed as Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy. Barnum created a sensational backstory, claiming Fedor was a wild man raised in the Russian wilderness and only recently tamed. In reality, Fedor was an intelligent, well-mannered man who spoke multiple languages. Fedor continued performing in Europe and the United States well into adulthood, becoming one of the most famous sideshow performers of the late 19th century. He eventually retired and lived a quieter life until he died of tuberculosis on January 31, 1904, in Turkey. Edward Boper was born in Saskatchewan, Canada, in 1881. He was of normal height until around age 9, when he suddenly experienced rapid and uncontrollable growth. Likely due to gigantism caused by a pituitary gland disorder, as a teenager, he dreamed of becoming a cowboy, but his height made horseback riding impossible. Realizing his size could be a source of income, he turned to performing as a strongman and sideshow attraction. By his late teens, Edward was already over 7 feet tall and began touring with Barnum and Bailey Circus and other traveling shows. He became famous for his incredible feats of strength, despite his fame. Edward's health deteriorated rapidly due to his condition. He suffered from extreme fatigue and joint pain, which made performing increasingly difficult. In 1904, while performing at the St. Louis World's Fair, he collapsed and was diagnosed with tuberculosis. He died shortly after. On July 3, 1904, at just 23 years old. Teodulo Valenzuela was a Mexican sideshow performer, born in the early 20th century, who gained international fame due to his extreme weight. While little is known about his early life, he was marketed as the heaviest man in the world, his career in circuses and traveling sideshows. During the mid-20th century, Valenzuela toured with various circuses and freak shows, particularly in Mexico and the United States. His immense size drew large crowds as audiences were fascinated by the rarity of extreme obesity at the time. He was often displayed in specially reinforced chairs or beds, as his mobility was limited due to his weight. Some reports suggest he may have participated in exhibitions promoting diet and health awareness. Though this is unconfirmed, due to his extreme weight, Valenzuela likely suffered from severe health issues related to obesity. There is little documentation regarding his later years, but he is believed to have passed away sometime in the mid to late 20th century. Dominique Castagna was a French sideshow performer, exhibited as a living skeleton due to his extremely thin and emaciated appearance. His weight was reportedly less than 50 pounds, and he had a visible rib cage and sunken features, which made him a medical curiosity. The exact cause of his condition remains unknown. But he likely suffered from a severe metabolic or digestive disorder that prevented weight gain. Castagna gained fame during the late 19th century, performing in European freak shows and traveling circuses. He was often displayed alongside other famous sideshow acts, such as giants, fat men, bearded ladies, and conjoined twins. His act typically involved standing on stage in minimal clothing, allowing audiences to marvel at his skeletal frame. Little is documented about Castagna's later years. Like many sideshow performers with extreme medical conditions, he may have faced serious health complications. His exact date and cause of death remain unknown, but he is believed to have passed away. In the late 19th or early 20th century, Grady Stiles Jr., born on June 26, 1937, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was born with ectrodactyly, a rare genetic condition that caused his hands and feet to be split into claw-like formations, resembling a lobster's pincers. His family had a long history of ectrodactyly, and his father, Grady Stiles Sr., was already a sideshow performer known as the Lobster Man. From a young age, Stiles was exhibited in sideshows as the Lobster Boy. He became a well-known attraction in circuses and traveling carnivals, performing alongside other freak show acts. Due to his condition, he was unable to walk normally and often moved using his arms and upper body strength. Despite his fame, Stiles had a dark and violent reputation. He was known for his explosive temper and alcoholism, often abusing his family. His physical strength made him especially dangerous, as he could deliver powerful blows with his claw-like hands. In 1978, Stiles murdered his daughter's boyfriend the night before their wedding, shooting him in cold blood. He later confessed, claiming he wouldn't allow his daughter to marry the man. At trial, he was convicted of third-degree murder, but was given 15 years probation instead of prison time. The court ruled that prison facilities were not equipped to handle his disability. Stiles' abusive behavior continued, and his second wife, Mary Teresa, along with her son and a hired hitman, plotted his murder. On November 29, 1992, he was shot and killed in his Florida home. Aloysia Wagner, known by her stage name Violetta, was born in Germany in 1906 with tetraamelia syndrome, a rare congenital disorder that resulted in the complete absence of all four limbs. Despite her physical limitations, she developed remarkable abilities, using her shoulders and torso to perform tasks that most would do with their hands. Violetta became a sideshow performer in the early 20th century, joining traveling circuses and freak shows in Europe and later in the United States. She was often billed as the limbless wonder or the human torso. Details about Violetta's later life remain scarce, and her exact date of death is unknown. Some sources suggest she continued performing into the mid-20th century, though she likely retired as sideshows declined due to changing attitudes toward disability and exploitation. Ella Harper was born in Tennessee in 1870 with congenital genuretecavetum, a rare condition that caused her knees to bend backward. This gave her a unique, almost animal-like gait, as she often walked on all fours, using both her hands and feet. For movement, due to her rare condition, Ella was recruited into the sideshow circuit at a young age. In 1886, she was billed as the Camel Girl because of the way her legs bent, resembling the stance of a camel. She was featured as the star attraction of W. H. Harris's Nickel Plate Circus, where she captivated audiences by demonstrating her unusual way of walking. True to her statement, Ella left the circus in 1886 at the peak of her fame, choosing to live a quiet private life away from public exhibition. She pursued education and later married Robert Savely, a schoolteacher. The couple faced personal tragedies, including the loss of their only daughter in infancy. Ella passed away from colon cancer on December 19, 1921, at the age of 51 in Nashville, Tennessee. She was buried in Spring Hill Cemetery. Joseph Carey Merrick was born in Leicester, England, in 1862. While he appeared normal at birth, he began developing severe deformities by the age of 5. Over time, his body became grossly disfigured with excessive skin growths, an enlarged head, and thick, lumpy skin, earning him the nickname the Elephant Man. His condition made normal life difficult. He faced bullying, rejection, and social isolation. After his mother died when he was 11, his father remarried and reportedly treated him cruelly, forcing him to leave home and seek refuge in workhouses. No other means of survival, Merrick entered the freak show circuit in the 1880s, where he was displayed as the Elephant Man. In traveling sideshows across Britain, he later went to Belgium, where he was exploited and mistreated by promoters by 1884. Merrick's case caught the attention of Dr. Frederick Treves, a London surgeon, who arranged for him to live at the London hospital. Under Dr. Treves' care, Merrick became somewhat of a Victorian celebrity, attracting visits from royalty and aristocrats. Despite his painful condition, he was intelligent, kind, and deeply appreciative of those who treated him with dignity. Merrick died on April 11, 1890. At age 27, his cause of death was likely asphyxiation or a broken neck. He had attempted to sleep lying down like a normal person, which his condition made dangerous. Pascual Peñan was a Mexican railway worker who became famous in the early 20th century as the two-headed Mexican. He reportedly had a large tumor or cyst on his forehead, which, according to legend, resembled a small second head. Some accounts suggest that his second head was a natural growth, while others claim that his promoters enhanced it with wax or a silver-plated mold to make it appear more realistic for sideshow audiences. Peñan was discovered by a traveling circus promoter and soon joined the Sells Floto Circus, a well-known American sideshow attraction in the early 1900s. He was billed as a medical marvel, and audiences were fascinated by his alleged parasitic twin. Circus posters often depicted him with an animated second face, though in reality, the growth did not have any independent function. After touring for several years, it is said that his promoter paid for an operation to remove the growth, allowing Peñan to return to a normal life. He reportedly retired from show business and went back to working on the railroad until his death in 1929. Fannie Mills was born in England in 1860, but later moved to Sandusky, Ohio. She suffered from Milroy's disease, a rare genetic disorder that caused severe lymphedema swelling in her legs and feet. As a result, her feet grew to an enormous size, measuring nearly 19 inches long and requiring custom-made shoes due to her unique condition. Fannie became a sideshow attraction in the 1880s, performing at major venues such as Coney Island and dime museums. She was advertised as the Ohio Bigfoot Girl or the Bigfooted Woman. Circus promoters exaggerated her story for publicity, claiming she needed shoes made from 3 goat skins and that she weighed only 115 pounds despite her massive feet. Some ads even included a fake dowry offer of $5,000 and a farm to any man willing to marry her. Though this was likely a marketing gimmick, Fannie was actually married to a man named William Brown, proving that love and companionship were possible. Despite her condition, by the late 1890s, her health deteriorated due to complications from her condition, and she died in 1899 at the age of 39. Annie Jones was born in Marion, Virginia in 1865, with an unusually hairy face and body due to hirsutism or possibly hypertrichosis. Her thick facial hair was noticeable even as an infant, and by the time she was a toddler, she had a fully developed beard. Recognizing her daughter's uniqueness, Annie's parents allowed P.T. Barnum, the legendary circus promoter, to display her in his museum when she was just 9 months old. She was billed as the infant Esau, referencing the biblical character known for being covered in hair. As Annie grew older, so did her fame. She became known as the Bearded Lady, a title she carried with grace and dignity. Unlike many sideshow performers who were exploited, Annie took control of her career, eventually becoming one of the most respected bearded ladies in history. She spent decades touring with Barnum and Bailey's Circus, earning a comfortable living and gaining the admiration of many. She was also highly intelligent, well-spoken, and deeply religious. Advocating for the respectful treatment of those with unusual conditions, Annie married Richard Elliott, a sideshow barker, but later remarried after his death. She continued tours with Barnum and Bailey until the early 1900s. Tragically, she died at just 37 years old from tuberculosis in Brooklyn, New York in 1902. Josephine Myrtle Corbin, born in 1868 in Lincoln County, Tennessee, was born with a rare condition known as dipagus, which resulted in her having 2 pelvises and 4 legs. Her 2 inner legs were underdeveloped, and while she could move them, they were too weak for walking. Despite her unusual anatomy, she was a healthy child, and her extra limbs were fully functional in terms of movement, though they were significantly smaller than her normal legs. At the age of 13, Myrtle was recruited into the sideshow circuit, where she was billed as the 4-legged girl from Texas. She became immensely popular, earning a great deal of money performing in P.T. Barnum's Circus, Ringling Bros, and other major sideshows. Her popularity was also due to her charming personality. And unlike many sideshow performers who were mistreated, she embraced her career and was in control of her earnings. In an unusual twist, Myrtle had 2 sets of reproductive organs, a result of her dipagus condition. Despite this, she married a doctor, James Clinton Bicknell, in 1886, and went on to have 5 healthy children. Her ability to conceive and carry children was considered a medical marvel at the time. After retiring from the circus, Myrtle lived a quiet life with her family in Texas. She passed away on May 6, 1928, from a streptococcal skin infection at the age of 59. The lives of circus freaks are more than just strange stories from history. They represent a time when society looked at difference with awe and curiosity, but also with judgment and prejudice. Their stories remind us that we should never define a person by their appearance, and that strength can come from the most unexpected places. As we can see, these circus freaks were more than just spectacles. They were individuals with incredible stories, talents, and resilience. While many were exploited by the entertainment industry, their contributions to the world of circus performance were undeniable. They each had their own unique path, whether through fame, struggle, or empowerment. But their legacies live on as a testament to the human spirit. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the lives of circus freaks. If you found this video fascinating, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.